Here's this guy with a backpack. My heart's beating. I'm ticked off. And by this time, I'm in a pretty rage. I'm just in a full out rage on this guy.
You've been asking for good news. I finally have some. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we have a new majority government coming from the provincial election out of Newfoundland. This is an absolute shocker and an upset. Could this be forecasting what's to come here in Canada? We also have new polling data coming from Angus Reid confirming exactly this. Mark Carney slipping in the polls badly. We also have another major auto manufacturer moving to America. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got Sheree Teest with new polling data out of Nanos. And considering Nanos is always heavily leaning liberal, 38.5%. You can see they've dropped 0.6%, and conservatives at 36.1%. This just falls in line with what we've been seeing, that likely the conservatives are the ones in the lead, as we've seen from many of the other polls. And what we're noticing here is the NDP getting their support back, the Bloc getting their support back. Canadians who voted for Liberals, who typically voted for other parties, are leaving the Liberal Party. There's no wonder for this, as we're seeing massive job losses across Canada. Wob Canoe posting this. Ontario has lost 47,000 jobs. Basically every other province is losing jobs except for Manitoba, BC, and Alberta. We got CBC trying to do cleanup duty here, posting this. Canada's economy added 60,000 jobs in September, with gains led in manufacturing, but in reality, they're always getting fact-checked here in the comments. We got Mario pointing this out. 72% of the jobs were created in Alberta. And this also ignores the massive job losses that we've had previous months. And Marty up north posting this one. Half of those created jobs were government jobs. And as Government EXE points out, there's been a net increase of 22,000 jobs and a net increase of 500,000 people since January 2025. Make that make sense. If you add in the housing numbers, how many housing starts, make it make sense. The housing starts are down. On average, Canadian home builders build 220,000 homes a year. That doesn't even make up for half the people they've brought in since January. And the year is not over. With that, we've got this from the Angus Reid Institute. They polled Canadians on Carney's interactions with Donald Trump, sucking up to Donald Trump, all the bootlicking, all of that, the praising. Carney, Trump, and waning Canadian confidence. Warm words in the Oval Office do little for trade optimism. They polled Canadians about the warm words in the Oval Office, and this is the results. Red across the board. Basically red saying the improved tone is merely optics and will not lead to any substantive change in Canada-US trade conflict. If you look across the board here, conservatives 78% polled said those warm optics aren't going to do anything. Total 67%. NDP saying 76%. Bloc nearly 70%. Even with liberal voters, 56% of them say that those warm optics will do nothing. 29% think that sucking up is going to do something. Clueless. Look at this one here. This one is how confident are you in Canada's negotiating team, including Prime Minister Mark Carney, to deliver a good deal for Canada in these negotiations. We're seeing polling over time here. July 25th, August 25th, September, and October. Most importantly, let's just look at July and October. We're seeing Canadians were 46% optimistic that Carney would get a deal, and now it's 35%. He slipped 11% in the last 3 months. 58% of Canadians now don't think that Carney is going to get a deal. So the longer this goes on, the worse it is for Carney. Is he going to be pulling out a snap election anytime soon? Fearmonger Donald Trump is the boogeyman again? Doesn't look like that tactic will work again for another election. They probably know this. The Liberals probably know that they can't use it again. So what will they do? Will he actually try to get a deal and then try to get reelected on something else? Are they going to dig up something else about Donald Trump and try to fearmonger some more? It's interesting times here. Got this one here. Is it appropriate or inappropriate for Carney to praise Trump? And this one's all over the map because obviously some people thinking, especially on the conservatives here, that praising him works. That's how you get a win with that guy. That's how you get in his inner circle. Other people saying, no, don't praise him. But what's more important here, look at this, 21% of Liberals who voted for Mark Carney on elbows up, fighting back against the Americans, saying it's inappropriate to praise Donald Trump. Yeah, that's what they voted for Mark Carney to do. 21% stuck to their guns saying, don't praise Donald Trump. But 56% say it was appropriate. They literally voted for the guy to not praise Donald Trump, to elbows up and fight back against Donald Trump. And here they are saying, oh, it's fine. It's totally fine. These people lack a moral code. They just flip-flop here, there, and anywhere, depending on what CBC is telling them they should be thinking for that day. Like, this is ridiculous. They voted for this guy, elbows up, and now they're okay with it. And we've got this one here. How confident are you in Canada's team negotiating Mark Carney to get a good deal, etc.? And you see July 25th and October 25th. These are 3 months apart, and we're seeing the numbers just drop. Confident because Carney and his team are well qualified to get a good deal. Now people are not thinking so much. 8% drop. We're seeing a 5% drop here in confident because Trump always always backs off. Maybe Trump's not going to back off. Not confident because Carney's team are poorly qualified. That's still neck and neck. Same thing, 24. Not qualified because Trump is too unpredictable. That is surging. People not liking Trump's unpredictability. Really, the most important piece of data is this one here. What will Carney do? And we've got this one here. We're seeing citizens' positive view of Mark Carney dropping, this blue line, and negative impression of Mark Carney raising. And we've got this one here is impression of Donald Trump since his inauguration, January 20th. And well, across the board, negative for basically every party except for the Conservatives is very mixed. Moving over to this, we've got the Progressive Conservatives have ended the 10 years of Liberal rule in Newfoundland and Labrador with a major upset victory, as Chase is pointing out here. Now, these aren't the finalized numbers. We've got the numbers here. So the final numbers, Tony Wakeham, Progressive Conservative, wins with 44.37 to the Liberals' 43.43%. And that translates to 21 seats, which gives them a majority government in Newfoundland and Labrador, to 15 seats for the Liberals and 2 seats for the NDP. This is a major upset. It even says it right here. Major upset. People are waking up. Now, Newfoundland does have oil over there. This is a case of the people waking up realizing that that oil pays the bills in Newfoundland and Labrador, or is this just the case of Canadians waking up in general? I mean, we've got 10 years of rule being dethroned by the Conservatives here. We can see the previous election results here. We've got 22 seats for the Liberals and 13 seats for the Progressive Conservatives. And once again, 2 seats for the NDP. So this is a major upset. Now, what's interesting, going on 338, which is the aggregate of all the polling, we see that they projected the Liberals to be 45% plus or minus 6%, and the PCs at 40% plus or minus 6%. Well, it worked out to be 44 to 43. Is this what we're going to be seeing across the country? I mean, we're seeing a lot of Nanos polls putting the Liberals ahead of the Conservatives by a couple of points, and they have the election projections here, which was a slim chance of the Conservatives winning, and that's what they did.
Thank you very much to everybody here tonight. Thank you to our entire team, our candidates, and our volunteers. And our volunteers province-wide. You know, I've spent over 30 years of my life coaching basketball. And in basketball, you learn that no stat is less important than to score at halftime. Well, it was only a couple of months ago, a whole lot of people were looking at the halftime score and thinking this election was over. Pollsters and pundits were saying it was going to be another Liberal majority. But we knew, all of us,
Looking at the last handful of polls here from about October 6th, we'll go there. There was nothing in September. So October 6th until the 11th, so just until a couple of days ago, they projected all red. Look at this. 43 to 40, 49 to 41, 52 to 32. This Main Street poll is out of control here. 47 to 37. This is wild to look at this projection of polling data that the Liberals are going to win this on every single one. And then the final results, 44 to 43. That's 88,550 votes to 86,671. So a difference of just under 2,000 votes. Was it 1,800 votes? Perhaps things are going to get better here in Canada.
We know that a lot of people in Newfoundland and Labrador were ready for a change because we knew it wasn't over until that final buzzer and all the votes are counted. And tonight, we all know it because we all feel it. There is nothing quite like a comeback.
I like him. I like him already. A little standing ovation.
Look at all the blue-collar young people in the crowd.
Now back to the normal kind of news that we see around here. We've got Kirk with this one. Edmonton bust 60,000 opium poppies grow up. This is Canada's second largest opium poppy seizure. Charged Sungdeep Danoa, Gurpreet Singh, Kuwinder Singh. More of the same. South Asians coming in here. How many times are we going to see this in the news? I mean, we've got another one right here. This one from Table Salt. Judge reduces sentence of Brampton man from Jamaica caught with the cocoa white Bam Bam powder while out on bail for street fentanyl trafficking and pew-pew convictions, citing systemic discrimination, and because he would be deported if sentenced to to over 6 months. That's right, because he's Jamaican and he's a black man. He gets a lesser sentence. How stupid of a country are we? It doesn't matter what color someone's skin is when they're committing a crime. Who is the judge? These judges are going out of their way to make Canada unsafe. That's what it seems like. I get it, they have to uphold the Liberals' rules, but I mean, come on. Got Mark Nixon posting this one. It took 38 years for Canada to hit 1 million food bank visits, and now just in 3 years, it's hit 4 million. Projections show 32 million by 2030. Look at this meteoric rise here. This came directly from the food bank. I remember them talking about this maybe a week or so ago. 44 total population does not make sense. Yeah, I mean, it'll stop at some point, but where will it stop? 4 million, 6 million, 8 million, 10 million, 20 million people? Where will it stop? Looks like our chart of immigration, national debt, and our crime rate. The Liberals must be proud. Isn't that the truth? This looks like the combination of all those things. We got this one here, a Canadian ended a 21-year-old in Auckland, New Zealand. This is blowing up everywhere. We've got this. So basically, these were stuffed full of the Cocoa White Bam Bam as a way to sneak it into the country. Owner of a local supermarket had imported large amounts of this. In this case here, the 21-year-old drank a can of this thinking it was stumbling juice, but it was liquid, METH, and, well, he perished. This is Canada, where we're shipping out street candy across the world. This is what we're getting known for. Got this one here. Stellantis plans $13 billion U.S. investment to spur growth. That's right. That comes at the expense of their retooling in Brampton. Canadian Jeep plant at risk. In Stellantis' $13 billion U.S. plan, Stellantis is halting its plans to manufacture the Jeep Compass SUV in its factory in the Toronto region, throwing into doubt the future of one of the company's 2 major assembly lines in Canada. The decision comes after part of a broader revamp at the automaker, which unveiled the $13 billion plan to bolster U.S. business and dodge tariffs. Stellantis will produce the Compass in Belvidere, Illinois. The company announced late in 2023 the retooling of this. They've been kind of on hold, and, well, this is the result we're seeing here. So the Brampton plant here in Ontario employed 3,000 unionized workers when it was producing vehicles, and now it's going to America. Is this elbows up? Are we winning yet? I don't know if we're winning enough yet, and we got Britannia posting this. Just to rub this in a little bit more, it was showing here a question period note, response to concerns that the government-supported Stellantis battery plant will use temporary foreign workers. So they were planning, or they were using, temporary foreign workers at one of these plants as well. Union politicians raising concerns that government-supported Stellantis LG battery plant will use temporary foreign workers. So this was back from November 2023, but it's just, well, what a disaster. It's so hard to find good news, uplifting, hopeful news. It's always more bankruptcy, despair, home invaders, crime, corruption, chaos in Canada. Although we do have this one from Doug Ford. I don't know if this is a real story or not. Sounds like he's doing a little bit of story time and making up stuff, but you be the judge.
A couple months ago, I pull in, I escape from my detail at 8 o'clock in the morning before they come, and it ticks them off. So I hop in my pickup, and I want to go to Home Depot. It was on a Saturday, and I pull up, and I wanted to get some plants. Actually, it was the weekend before the Prime Minister came. I wanted to get plants for the cottage, so I loaded up.
Of course you did. Wanted to get some new plants to impress your good buddy Mark Carney at your Muskoka cabin. Really relatable here, Doug.
And I pulled up right by the nursery. I think majority have been to Home Depot, so I pull right up. I load up all the plants, and I'm ready to pull out. And here's this guy with a backpack and a bag, and he's walking out. And the store manager's yelling at him, come back, come back, and the security guard's there. And I said, well, go get him. We aren't allowed to go get him. And so he went around the side of where all the plants and outside the parking lot. So I was in my car. I said, screw this. I'm going after this guy. So and by this time, my heart's beating. I'm ticked off. So I go racing behind. No one can see. And I pull up behind him and jump into the car. I said, buddy, what's in your bag? Nothing's in my bag. I said, buddy, I'm going to kick your ass all over the parking lot. Show me what's in your bag.
Is this a real story or one that's going on in Doug Ford's head?
I did. I couldn't help myself. And so I said, buddy, come over here. And nothing's in my bag. And so he's starting. Now, by this time, the store manager comes, and he's on fire. He's cursing and swearing. I guess I threw in a couple colorful language, too. And so he's emptying out his bag. And all of a sudden, so he's saying, nothing's here. I said, how about your other bag? It's because he dropped and heard a cling. And so he went in there and he pulled out one of those saw blades that you open up.
Yeah.
And you use it as a saw blade. And the store manager said, that's what he stole. And then, we start saying da-da-da-da to the guy. And then I said, keep emptying out the bag. he pulls out some cutters, tin snips. And by this time, I'm in a pretty rage. I'm just in a full out rage on this guy. And I said, buddy, you stole those too. And he goes, I swear to God, I didn't steal them. I didn't steal them. He said, look at the rust on them. I looked at them, they were rusty. I said, okay, those are yours. But the rest. And then I went on to tell him if I ever see him in the parking lot, he's going to get a beating like he's never got before.
Yeah, and then you'd be going to jail, Doug. Is this story real, or is this Doug Ford pretending to be a superhero? I saw this guy and I chased after him and I forced him to pull out that saw blade that was in his backpack. I was going to beat him up. Sounds like Dougie got into the Crown Royal again. It's as real as his promise to cut off the power to the U.S. Yeah. I don't doubt that the part about getting plans to dress up his Muskoka cabin for Mark Carney. Next up, we got Canadian Tire saying that names, emails, and some customers were exposed to a data breach. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that.
Canadian Tire says some customer information was involved in a recent data breach. The retailer says the breached info belongs to shoppers who had an e-commerce account with Canadian Tire or its other banners, including Sport Chek, Marks, and Party City. The data includes names, email addresses, and in some cases, incomplete credit card numbers. The company says the information is not enough to access accounts or make purchases. The vulnerability was first identified on October 7th, and the company says it's working with experts to enhance security.
Oh, I bet they're really going to enhance security, aren't they? These are the same guys who one of their stores just got fined over $100,000 for abusing the temporary foreign worker program. We need much tougher laws to force companies to put in proper protections as it stands. They know they do the minimum, get away with it, but that would mean government growing a backbone. I mean, we don't even have proper protections for Canadians with our government. I mean, look what Mark Carney's doing, how many conflicts of interest he has. I mean, this grows on a daily basis. The Carney lie tracker is now getting a new section here because, I mean, it's just more of the same from this guy. How long is this going to be? These are direct conflicts of interest that should put him in some hot water. And as of right now, even if he were to get charged for all of these, it would be $500 a piece, which is nothing to Mr. Globalist Mark Carney. The guy's worth millions. We need to have laws in place where if someone gets caught with this, it's like $1 million fine for every single one. And it's jail time. Instead, we have stupid laws that don't seem to matter.